Learn about 40 goods, leads, pitches, and cold calls on this episode about sales. Welcome to the English podcast that does not have a money-back guarantee. Welcome to
Aprender Inglés with Reza and Craig.
Hello, and if you're a new listener to the show, welcome. My name's Craig.
And my name's Reza.
And we're English teachers with over 50 years of teaching between us, so we can help you improve your pronunciation, your grammar, your vocabulary, all aspects of your English, and take it to the next level. How are you doing, Reza?
I'm doing really well. How about you?
I'm very well, thank you. Everything's going fine. I'm looking forward to podcasting again with you this week. What's first?
We've got a voice message from Alberto. This is the Alberto who lives in Australia.
Good day, mate.
All right, sport.
Hi, Reza. Hi, Craig. This is Alberto from Australia. I just wanted to let you know, as I sent you a message a few months ago, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for all the effort you are making. I think we can see a lot of people like me. We just really enjoy listening to you guys. So thank you so much. I just wanted to talk about some few things that you talk in the old podcasts, talking about names, for example. I just did some research, and apparently my name comes from the man who shows his novelty and comes from a German background. I thought it was Muslim, but I'm surprised. Okay, great. Also, the other way was great. The second thing is here in Australia, there are some names called close. So it's a street that finished there. Is that an ending street? Yeah, this is about the podcast you were talking about. And just to let you know that it would be great if maybe you can talk about a bit of history of the tea and the cookies, the typical afternoon tea that you British usually have. Why are you so fan of all these things? Keep going so well, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alberto. Always a pleasure to hear from our friend Alberto from down under in Australia. And as he said, the man who shows his nobility. That's the word. A noble man, noble, a man who shows his nobility. That's Alberto.
Yes, Alberto, that was a very interesting message. And you've asked us a few questions. What does close mean when we speak about streets? I'm not sure what he's getting at. What does he mean by that, Craig?
I think we were speaking about roads and streets and avenues and dual carriageway. And sometimes you hear the name of a street with the word close after it. Like Midway Close or Pine Close, something like that.
Okay, as an alternative to street or park or road.
Exactly.
Okay, right. Sorry, I didn't understand your question, Alberto. Now I do. Notice then that the pronunciation is different compared to the verb. The verb is to close with z sound, but if it's a street, it's a close.
The difference with those two sounds, the close, the second one, the air only comes through the teeth, only through the teeth. But with the z sound like a bee or a wasp, you can feel the vibration in your throat. So there's a deep vocal vibration with close, the verb, to close the door.
I was a bit confused, Alberto. I thought you were talking about to close a street, which is cerrar la calle. I thought you meant that close, but you didn't. You meant that close.
It's a good idea to speak about the history of tea, don't you think? Although we have spoken about biscuits. Remember, Alberto, not cookies, not cookies. Oh no, British people don't have tea and cookies. We have tea and biscuits.
Americans probably have coffee and cookies, I suppose, but tea and biscuits for the British. What about in Australia? Do they call them biscuits or cookies? I wonder.
They tend to shorten words in Australia, so probably bickies, tea and bicky.
Yeah.
Have a bicky.
In Britain we do as well, we say bicky. I think you said the history of the tea, but you should have said just tea, know the, because you're talking about tea in general, not a specific tea.
So, Alberto, if you want to listen to the episode we did on biscuits and cakes, go back to inglespodcast.com/207 to find out Reza and my favourite biscuits and cakes. And I think the history of tea we will add to our list of ideas for a future podcast. So thank you very much for that idea. And take care down there in Australia.
Yeah, and please get back to us and tell us which biscuits are most popular in Australia. We'd like to know.
Next, we have a voice message from Andre from Brazil, who is a regional sales manager and has a question for us.
Hi Reza, hi Craig. My name is André. I'm from Brazil and I live in Brasilia. Brazil is capital of Brazil. I'd like to give an idea for next episode. Could you talk about business vocabulary, especially in sales? I think it's a good idea because I'm a regional sales manager and this kind of vocabulary will help me a lot, especially in some meeting and when I have to do some presentations. Thanks for your time. Congratulations for your job. See you next time.
Thanks very much, Andre. That's a very nice message and very interesting. Can I just point out a little mistake you made? You said that Brasilia is capital of Brazil. Your mistake there is the opposite to Alberto's mistake. He wanted to talk about the history of tea, and you should say that Brasilia is the capital of Brazil. You need to add the word the, because it's a specific city then, a specific capital, the capital of Brazil, not the capital of England. So you were missing the word the, whereas previously Alberto should have said the history of tea with no the.
And if you want to revise articles, when to use the, and we did do a special episode on articles with our friend Bea. So go to the website and in the search box, just type in article and you'll find that episode. In fact, any grammar or vocabulary that we've covered, you can find by using the search box on the website. Business vocabulary in sales is a very good idea for a topic because there are lots of business people who work in business, like Andre, who need special coaching, special help because they're sitting in business meetings, they're making telephone or Skype conversations in English. They are giving presentations in English, which is very difficult if it's not your first language. It's difficult if it is your first language. So in English, it's sometimes even harder. Well, we're quite limited with the podcast how we can help you. But if you do need personal one-to-one coaching and help, why not use our sponsor, italki? italki is a webpage where you can find people who specialize in business English and any kind of English, and they can work with you one-to-one to help you improve your English and become more effective in your business dealings. You register on the website, you choose a teacher, you schedule your first lesson, and then you connect at a time and on a day that's convenient for you. italki are offering a $10 italki credit to help you get started as soon as you pay for your first lesson with your new teacher. And you can find more details on our website at inglespodcast.com/267. Just click the italki link or the image and that will take you right away to their website where you get that discount. And Reza and I would like to thank italki very much for sponsoring this podcast.
So, we're going to talk to you about business vocabulary in sales. But just before that, let me remind you that in a previous episode, we actually talked about international business. And there's lots of useful vocab in that episode, which is related to this episode. Words like retail, wholesale, distributor, manufacturers, etc. So to get that vocabulary, have a look at inglespodcast.com/252. So that was back in episode 252.
We also spoke about marketing and market research back in 130, so inglespodcast.com/130, and more recently about brand loyalty and customer service. You can find that episode at inglespodcast.com/261. And there was actually a podcast I'd like to recommend to anybody wanting to improve their business English. It's called Business English Pod, pod.com, and there's a link in the show notes, episode 267.
I tell you what, let's start by revising the basics because not everybody perhaps knows these very important words. In sales, you had better know the word to sell. To sell is a verb, S-E-L-L, and it's the opposite of to buy. So in business, you buy and you sell. A sale, that's S-A-L-E, a sale, that is the noun related to the verb to sell. A sale, or more formally, a purchase, is the noun connected to the verb to sell. But be careful if you use the plural sales, S-A-L-E-S. It could be the plural of a sale. So imagine I'm a salesman and I say, oh, I've had a really good day today. I've had 20 sales. So I've sold 20 things. Okay. But there's another meaning of sales, or sometimes we say the sales. That is a limited period with special reduced prices. Rebajas, as you say.
They start next month here, don't they? Next month in July in Valencia, we've got the summer sales. There are the winter sales and the summer sales. Do you often wait for the sales to do your shopping?
For clothes, nearly always.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I never do.
I very often do for clothes.
I never do. Not because I've got a lot of money, but because I never find something I like in the sales that's my size and a nice colour and reduced in price. I always get frustrated because when I like something, it's not my size, or they don't have any that I like. I get frustrated with the sales.
Also for electrical equipment, electronic equipment as well, I often wait for the sales, things like washing machines, dishwashers, fridges, because you can save a lot of money in the sales. You know, the very same product was maybe 100 euros more expensive just a few days before, and the product hasn't changed. So I do often wait for sales, I must say.
You do get a percentage removed from the price, which in English we would say off, the preposition off, O-F-F. So you might have 30% off or 20 euros off the retail price.
But of course, you got to be careful because it might be 30% off, 50% off, maybe even more, 80% off. But maybe the original price was very expensive.
Yeah.
So even at a 50% discount, 50% off, maybe it's still quite expensive. So for me, I like to check other prices, even though there might be a sale on in a particular shop. I don't 100% trust the price at the beginning.
Yeah, me neither. And as Reza said before, another way to say buy is purchase. Do you think that word is more common in American English, to purchase something?
It is more common. In British English, it's definitely reserved for more formal language. But yes, I guess it's more common in general in the United States.
I've heard in informal English, American people say, I purchased this phone last week, when a British person would say, I bought this phone last week.
Yeah, so they use it a lot more frequently as a verb as well, don't they, to purchase.
Mm-hmm. Cold call, C-O-L-D, cold call. Does that mean making phone calls from a cold country where it's snowing?
You got a call from Alaska, it's a cold call.
It's a cold call, and if it's from the Bahamas, it's a warm call or a hot call.
Or a hot call could be something quite different.
Hot call could be something pornographic. We won't go there. No, a cold call is to telephone a prospective customer without previous contact. I know this is very popular in sales. It's something that I absolutely hate. I'm laying here on the sofa having my siesta for 15 minutes and the phone rings and I answer the phone and it's someone cold calling me. They're calling me to sell me something. I've never spoken to this person before. Is there anything more annoying than that.
It's surprising that they still do it, because the people I know, 99%, if not 100% of my friends say that they would never buy anything as the result of a cold call. So I don't know who does. Do you know anybody who buys products as the result of a cold call? It irritates most people, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's aimed at catching you off guard, perhaps, which means catching you at a sleepy moment or a time when you're not paying attention, or unfortunately, preying on older people. To prey on someone like animals do is to wait for the moment where you're getting a weak person who doesn't really know how to defend themselves, and then you sell them something. So maybe an older person is more vulnerable or more open to being sold something on a cold call once the salesman gets them talking.
Craig, do you ever buy things in bulk?
I like buying in bulk. Yes, sometimes you get money off. It's a reduced price if you buy more than one thing at a time. For example, it may be cheaper to buy 6 cartons of milk than 1 carton of milk. So if the sell-by date is good, the sell-by date is the fecha de caducidad. If it's good, then why not buy in bulk if you have the room to store it in your house? Do you buy in bulk?
Yes, I do. As you say, as long as it's something which I know I have space to store. So I'm not going to buy 3 fridges because they're reduced, thinking, oh, when one breaks in 5 years or 10 years time, I got another one. No, but yes, maybe 4 cartons of food, because it's much cheaper than one.
Yeah, things like soap and washing up powder and washing up liquid, things that it's a pain when you need it and you have to run to the supermarket because you have no soap left or no shampoo. Why not buy 6 or 8 and keep them in the house if you save money doing it?
And particularly if they're in the sales. So in bulk and in the sales, I might think, well, yeah, reduced price, and it's not going to go off. You know, I don't know if there even is an expiry date for washing powder. If there is, it's probably for about 10 or 20 years, or maybe there is no expiry date. It's not going to go off. So yeah, I can buy lots of bulk for things like detergent.
Yeah, buy in bulk. That's our advice. There's a word that we've spoken about before, L-E-A-D, lead. You can use lead, for example, when you take your dog for a walk. So you're taking Coco out for his walk, and you tie a lead to his collar and you can lead him down the street. But what does lead mean, Reza, in the context of sales?
It has a very specific meaning in the world of sales. It's the indication of a possible future customer. So a lead, it's a bit like for police investigation. When they talk about a lead, it means they've discovered something which could lead to them being successful. Mm-hmm. They could find out the answer of who committed the crime. So in sales, a lead is a person or something indicating that a person might be a future customer.
Do you know what a lead magnet is?
I know what a lead magnet is, but is there such a thing as a lead magnet?
Magnet is, in Spanish, is imán. And a lead magnet in internet sales is where there's like a carrot in front of your face that's leading you to do something. Now, on our webpage at inglespodcast.com, on the right-hand side of the page, there's a space for you to sign up for our newsletter, because every month we send a newsletter with the podcasts that we've created this month, in case you've missed any, if you haven't subscribed, and also any news or any other information that we'd like to give you. And you're welcome to sign up. But if I said to you, go to the webpage, sign up for the newsletter, and when you sign up for the newsletter, we will send you a free PDF of Reza's reforma of his flat and everything that he's done. Now, that is a kind of a temptation for you to go to the webpage and give us your email address. We don't do that, but some companies do. They give you an incentive, a reason, a motivation for joining their email list or buying a product. That kind of carrot, that kind of enticement or reason to do something is a lead magnet because it's pulling you in a particular direction to do something and take action.
That's a really curious new expression, because I wasn't joking when I said I've heard of a lead magnet. And it's spelled the same.
It's spelled the same, yeah.
Lead can also be pronounced lead.
Yes.
But obviously with a different meaning, then it's plomo, uniman de plomo. So there's a lead magnet and there's also a lead magnet with the same spelling. Isn't that strange?
It's very common in internet marketing.
Craig, I guess you could say it's kind of the opposite of a lead is a loyal customer or a returning customer. So this is not a new customer. This is a customer who has bought things from you before. They've maybe bought many things, so they're returning. That is, of course, the favored customer of any good salesperson.
Because if they're loyal, they're returning, then they're spending more money with you. They're happy with your product or service and your after-sales service, perhaps, that we'll speak about in a moment. So yeah, if you have a returning customer that's loyal to your brand, that's something that most companies would love to have.
And we seem to have quite a few returning customers, although I'm not quite sure if I should use the word customer. Returning listeners.
Returning listeners.
People listen time and time and time again.
Aircoholics.
Aircoholics. People who are functional aircoholics. They can still somehow have a normal life despite spending hours listening to us.
If you're a new listener, an aircoholic, aprender inglés con Reza y Craig, that's AIRC, aircoholic, is the name that some people give to people who continue listening to the podcast addictively.
I say I don't want to call you customers. Well, it's because of a technicality. Just to remind you, customer, no, because you don't pay anything. A customer pays for a service.
Well,
because we're free.
Yeah, but the Patreon supporters pay for the transcriptions indirectly because they've joined the Patreon program and we send those transcriptions to them.
Yeah, but it's totally voluntary. If you're a new listener, don't worry. There's no obligation whatsoever to pay to listen to us. There's no obligation. You could donate if you want. We'll tell you about that in a minute.
Even the word subscribers, we talk about I'm subscribed to the podcast. Please subscribe. In some areas of sales, subscribe kind of means you have to pay for something. Mm-hmm. If you subscribe to a magazine, if you subscribe to Netflix, you're paying for it. Not the case with a podcast. You can subscribe to a podcast on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Spotify, on Overcast, any of the podcast apps that are free, and your subscription is free. You don't pay for it, even though you become a subscriber, and you get your podcasts automatically when they are released. So we mentioned after-sales service before. What's that, Reza?
So, as you would imagine, it happens after the sale. So, once somebody has bought something, they're going to perhaps need regular maintenance. For example, if you buy a car, after-sales service is extremely important because you're almost certainly going to have your car checked. You're going to have it serviced. That means take it to after-sales service and they're going to have to do something to it. So for most products, but in particular for products which cost you a lot of money and you want them to last you a long time, after-sales service must be high quality.
Can you think of a company that has very good after-sales service?
Most of the big car manufacturers do. I'm not going to mention the names. Everybody knows who they are. For technology, are people like Apple, are they good with after-sales service?
Yes, they are. Yeah, they are very good.
I say that because I've never actually had anything made by Apple, but I know people who have.
I do have an old iPhone. I'm a PC guy, so I use Windows on the desktop, and I bought my PC from a local shop in Valencia. I've been buying my computers there since I've lived here over 20 years. Their after-sales service is very, very good because I have a good relationship with them over the years. If I have a problem, then they're very, very good in fixing it. But Apple also, as a multinational company, has very good after-sales service.
You could argue, I guess, that you pay for good after sales service in the price. Because let's be honest, Apple products are not cheap. Maybe part of that money is used to provide their good after sales service.
Yeah. Now, you can buy something on credit if you don't have the money to buy an expensive item, like a brand new top-of-the-range Apple computer. You could get something now, get the computer now, and pay for it later. Sometimes that happens with interest. That means sometimes you end up, which means finally, at the end, you pay a slightly higher price for the product because your payment is over a long period of time. And some people do that because they're buying on impulse. If you buy on impulse, it's a reflex. You see something in the shop, wow, look at that fantastic new kitchen, or look at that wonderful car, or that wonderful expensive waterbed, jacuzzi, and you buy it. It's expensive, and you're paying by installments, which means there's a payment arrangement that you've made with the company. Have you ever bought anything on credit or by installments, Reza?
Very, very, very few things in my life, because I don't like doing it as a general rule.
Me neither.
But of course, one very important thing that most of us pay by installments, my house. You don't really have much choice.
Oh, yeah.
Not many people can afford to pay it in one go, de golpe. So effectively, a mortgage, una hipoteca, a mortgage is payment by installment with plenty of interest.
With high interest.
But most of us have no choice but to take one out. You take out, that means you accept a mortgage and you pay by installments the money that the bank has given you.
But at least with a mortgage, one day you might sell the flat and recuperate or get back the money or some of the money. If you're renting, that money just disappears.
Yeah, that's what I think. I agree with that.
What's a sales pitch? Pitch. And have you ever made one?
Well, the only time really is for this podcast. I guess we have made a sales pitch. We have released material from time to time. We've done the occasional video saying thanks to our listeners, and also telling people what we're about, why we exist, what we do, and why you should listen to us. That's a sales pitch. So it's a presentation. It could be formal, informal. It could be written. It could be just spoken, that tries to persuade someone to buy or subscribe to your product. Mm-hmm. So yeah, for the podcast, we've done it really, haven't we?
Yeah, we've pitched the podcast.
And we've pitched it at an audience who wants to learn, an audience who's serious about learning English, but very importantly, also wants to have a good time. It doesn't have to be boring to learn a language, quite the opposite. Our pitch is for people who are serious, but they're busy people. They've got other things to do in their life, we understand, and they want to enjoy it. That's our pitch, would you say?
Yep, I agree with that. I suppose also, now that italki are sponsoring the podcast again, we're pitching italki to the audience because we're identifying a problem that some of the audience might have with their English, and we're offering a solution, which is kind of a pitch. If you're struggling giving presentations in English, go to italki. They will help you with a qualified English teacher. That's pitching italki to the audience. So every week we're doing it.
Craig, we've often talked about quotes or quotations in this podcast, not surprisingly, because we talk about language. So to be or not to be is a famous quotation. But there's another type of quotation or quote. What is that?
It can mean the estimation of a price. For example, I need somebody to paint my flat, or maybe you need someone to paint your flat.
I do.
You ask a painter to give you a quote or a quotation. Can you give me a quote to paint this flat? Can you give me a quote to lay a new floor? Can you give me a quote to give you English lessons? So it's an estimate of the price to do something.
Now, if you're unlucky, you might end up with faulty goods when you buy something.
Is that 40, like 40?
Not 40, faulty. 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 That's an adjective, faulty. And a fault take away the Y, is the noun. A fault is something that goes wrong. So faulty goods are defective goods.
I bought a memory card once for a recording device that was faulty. I used it twice or maybe 3 times, and then it stopped working. It just wouldn't record any data, any information. It was a faulty memory card, and I got it replaced.
So they replaced it without any problems.
Yeah, because it was faulty and they could see that it wasn't working, yeah.
Good after-sales service in that case.
It was under guarantee. It was under guarantee because it was just a month old.
Have you ever used a service which was given in a free trial?
Yeah, many times, especially software. Software is something that these days you can try before you buy. So you try it online. If you're happy with the service, you pay for it when the free trial has elapsed or has finished. So usually it's 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 1 month. You're using the software free, and then suddenly you need to pay or stop using it. And if I like the software, then I pay for the service. I think that's a very good way of selling things, because if you don't try it first, how do you know if you like it? If you buy something, then you may ask for an invoice, INVOICE, which is like a receipt, but it's for tax purposes, factura in Spanish. So to submit an invoice is to send a customer or send a client a bill for a purchase. To submit an invoice.
A bill for a purchase, or I've often also heard the expression, a bill of purchase as well.
Yeah.
Very important in any sale, particularly if you're going to spend a lot of money, is the terms of payment, the conditions of payment agreed on by the buyer, the one who buys, and the seller, the one who sells, for the goods or services. In other words, read the small print. La
Yes.
letra pequeña.
Very important.
Yeah, that will be there in the terms of payment. Yeah, and very often there are things that might surprise you if you stop to read them. In the terms of, rather than payment, shall I say, the terms of use, because sometimes you can get things for free without any payment, but there are terms of use, for example, in mobile apps, and you must agree to the terms of use, and then you get the app free. But people sometimes are surprised by the terms of use whenever they eventually discover that they maybe agreed to have all their data stored and used, but they agreed. The company didn't deceive them. They just didn't bother to read the small print, the terms of use.
You mean they might be surprised for using a free service that they are in fact the product?
People surprisingly are surprised. They shouldn't be, but in my opinion, those people are very naive, inocente.
Yeah.
But people do get surprised. I mean, there was a thing on the Spanish news not so long ago about, it sounds so innocent, but the Real Madrid app, which was free, in the terms of use, they were allowed to listen in to any conversation on your mobile phone. Why would you need to do that to talk about Real Madrid? You wouldn't expect that, but it was written in the terms of use. But so few people expected that they were surprised when they discovered that the people who invented the Real Madrid app could listen to your telephone conversations.
Free is not a business model. Any company that's offering you a completely free service are not going to stay in business very long unless they're making money from you somehow.
Unless they're just so altruistic that their only motivation is, for example, the improvement of your English language skills. You might very occasionally find people who are not in it for the money. People who maybe produce a podcast totally free, and the only thing they want is for you to improve your English. It is possible, Craig, isn't it?
That's a good point. That's a good point. I did forget about us. If you are a salesperson like Andre, then you might set yourself a sales target. We spoke about target recently on an episode when we spoke about goals and targets and aims. A sales target is a goal that is set for a salesperson. So if you reach your target, you hit your target. And if you earn more money or get more clients, then you go over your target for the month or the quarter. And if you do not reach your target, you fall short of your target. So those two phrasal verbs, too much is to go over. That's a good thing. You go over your target. And not reach it is to fall short of your target. I fell short of my target last month.
I suppose for salespeople, the best moment of all in their working day is when they close the sale. That is the moment when they complete the transaction, they close the deal, and the sale has been agreed, and money now is going to change hands. Before that, it was talk, 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 but nobody paid anything. But when they close the sale, then it's been agreed that someone's going to buy and someone's going to sell.
Before people close the deal or close the sale, there's probably some negotiations going on. Now, in business English, you might say negotiation, but you could also say to bargain or to haggle. And those two verbs are a bit more informal. If you're bargaining, if you're haggling, you're trying to reduce the price, to drive the sale price down. And bargain and haggle might be more appropriate to use in the marketplace, in an informal situation. But if you're selling and buying a house or a car, then you're probably negotiating the price. That's a little more formal.
And there's a very common expression using the word bargain, to drive a hard bargain. Yeah, to drive.
Is that when you're buying a car? If you're driving it?
No, it's not. It's not. It just means to look for or to try to get. To drive at something is to make a big effort to try and get it. So if you drive a hard bargain, that means you're a good negotiator. You're good at getting the deal that you want. It could be for sales, but it's often used metaphorically as well. For example, imagine my wife says to me, "You must come and visit my mother." In other words, my mother-in-law, her mother. And I say, "Oh no, I don't get on with her." She says, "All right, well then tomorrow I can't go and visit your grandmother." It's like, "Oh, come on, you said you would." She said, "Well, I tell you what, 1 hour with my mother, 1 hour with your grandmother." And I say, "Ooh, you drive a hard bargain. You're a good negotiator." And she's got me, and I have to agree to her conditions.
A final expression to leave you with: the customer is always right. The customer is always right. That's a very popular expression in customer services. Just make sure that the customer tiene razón. Okay, the customer's always right. That's quite a good way to approach customer service. So the customer is always right, except when they're a pain in the arse, perhaps. Reza, I've got some expressions that could be used in sales that Andre and others might find useful, but I want to see if you can guess the last word of these expressions. Now, you haven't seen these expressions before, have you?
No, genuinely, I do not know what Craig's going to ask me now.
So I'm giving you a cold sell here. Okay, so you haven't seen these. I'll start the expression. I'll leave a pause for you at home and for Reza to try to guess the final word. Here's the first one. I'm sure you're quite busy at the moment, so I'll be very...
Brief?
Yes! Very good.
A very typical opening line of a salesperson.
I'm sure you're quite busy at the moment, so I'll be very brief, which means I won't take up a lot of your time. I'll be very quick. All of these expressions can be seen on the website at inglespodcast.com/267. Here's number 2. I won't take very much of your...
Time.
Yes, correct. Well done. Buy one and get the second at half...
Price.
Absolutely. You're going fantastically. Here's number 4. With your permission, I'd like to ask you some...
Questions?
Yes. Very, very good. Next one. I really appreciate you letting us...
One word, is it?
Yes, always one word. I really appreciate you letting us
Talk?
know. Letting us know. K-N-O-W. I really appreciate you letting us know. Here's the next one. How flexible is the seller on price? Is the price
Negotiable?
very good? You got that one. Congratulations. How flexible is the seller on price? Is the price negotiable? Next one. This is a month-to-month arrangement which will allow you to cancel
Immediately?
anytime. Anytime. A month-to-month arrangement which will allow you to cancel anytime. Next one. Buy with confidence due to our money back.
Guarantee.
Yes, no problem for you there. Next one. Our team is slashing prices across the entire range of
Products.
correct. Very, very good. Next one. Is there anything else I can help you?
With?
Yes, the preposition with. Is there anything else I can help you with? 2 more to go. Next one. The price of this product is...
Rock bottom?
unbeatable.
Unbeatable. Something silver. Rock bottom means it can't go any lower.
Exactly.
Unbeatable.
It's unbeatable. The same meaning. The price of this product is rock bottom or unbeatable. And finally, one more. The item will be delivered to you at no further
Expense.
cost.
Cost.
Same thing. No further cost. You did very well. Fantastic. And you had not seen those before, so that was excellent.
I wonder how many our listeners at home got right.
Remember, you can check on the website if you want to revise these expressions. And now it's your turn to practice your English. Do you have a comment or question for us, or an idea, perhaps, for a future podcast? We'd love to hear your voices, so please contact us. Leave us a message, say hi, tell us where you're from, and then any message you have. You can do that at speakpipe.com/Ingles podcast, or just record a message and attach it to the email. Where do emails go, Reza?
They could go to Craig. He's at craig@inglespodcast.com, or to me, belfastreza@gmail.com.
And if you would like to improve your English, there are courses available that you can pay for and download at Mansion Ingles. That's store, store.mansioningles.net. Before we go, we'd like to thank our wonderful patrons who continue to give us their generous support. You can join them by joining the program for $1 minimum per month. You get instant access to recent transcriptions transcribed by our friend Angelica, and the address for that is Patreon, patreon.com/Ingles podcast.
We'd like to thank all of our Patreon supporters, but we haven't got time. However, you can read the names on the show notes. But I have got time just to thank our most recent supporters who joined the scheme this month. They are Geraldine Islas, Ramon Menocal, Esteban, and Rafael. Thank you for your generosity, you and all of our Patreon sponsors.
Yeah, we really do appreciate your support. On next week's episode, we're speaking about intonation, the way the voice goes up and down. So please join us next week and learn how you can use your voice to use intonation in English, which is something that's not so common in native Spanish speakers. So thank you for listening this week. Join us next week for intonation. It's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye. The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.